Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/new music industry. Over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player.
You're listening to the New Music Industry with David Andrew Wiebe.
Today I'm chatting with drummer, singer, producer, career coach, and public speaker, Matt Starr. How are you today, Matt?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you for asking, and thank you for joining me today. You know, there's so much we can talk about, but I think one of the first things we should get into is your story. I'm sure you've talked about this lots, so not to belabor the point, but I would love for you to talk about the struggle of becoming a professional musician.
Yeah, no, and I'm happy to talk about it because I think I know from when I was a kid, you see somebody who has achieved a certain level of success, and then you assume that, well, they were just born like that, or you only see what they do well. You don't see all the times they tried and either, failed, quote unquote, or, all the takes that we do that don't sound so great, that don't make it onto the record. And you just assume that, oh, well, some people are just born to do this and maybe I'm not. And so I saw my first Kiss album at age 7. Scott Gabala lived up the street from me. He was a few years older, and he had some records, and Cheap Trick Live at Budokan was one of my favorite records to this day. Sean Cassidy, the Do Run Run, which was, I like that record too, I have to admit. It's rock and roll. It's not quite, as edgy as I like, but, just some cool stuff. But when I saw Kiss Alive too, picture of Gene Simmons with blood, and you open up the inside and there's flames and sparks. It just blew my mind. And I wasn't thinking about career or even about being a musician. I just was mesmerized by that world that they had created, and I knew that world, whatever that is, whatever these guys are doing, I just want to be in there. And that feeling never went away. So looking back, as I've gotten older, I realized that was a really a divine moment, and such a blessing, because I knew tons of people in high school. I said, what are you going to do, when you get out of high school? Like, oh, I don't know, I'm going to go to college. I'm like, oh, what? I don't know. I got to figure it out. And I'm thinking, well, you're going to spend all your parents' money. You're going to go away for 4 years and invest into something that you don't even know what you're passionate about. And so that was a gift that I knew that at age 7, even if I didn't know exactly what it was, but I knew like the feeling that I got, and nothing else ever gave me that same feeling. And so, started playing in 6th grade, had a band in junior high. We played the local talent shows. We actually won a church battle of the bands by playing a Judas Priest cover, so go figure. But we had a lot of fun, and we just wanted to be great. And we would go, I was born in 1970, so we were going to concerts by Kiss, Twisted Sister, AC/DC, Iron Maiden, so we were going to see them at the local arena, Harvard Civic Center in our town, watching these guys, and we would watch how they performed. We would watch how they paced the set, how they came out, if they did encores, where they placed the guitar solos, all this stuff, enjoying it as fans, but really like being objective about it too. So I always had an eye on, I was a fan, and I still am, but I was also looking at the behind the scenes and kind of trying to understand, how did they make this thing work, so did that. I actually moved to LA for 1 year in my early 20s. I didn't like it. I didn't understand it. I didn't know how to get along with people. I was used to being a big fish in a small pond back in Connecticut, where I grew up. So consequently, I went back home. And then I got into the scenario that a lot of guys have gotten into, which is I was making a living playing music, but I was not living my dreams. I was playing covers. I was playing in bars, and we were having fun, making music, meeting girls, drinking, all that stuff. But that really wasn't what I wanted to be doing. That wasn't where my heart lied, So that went on for several years, and then I moved back out to Los Angeles in 2002, and I played drums for a little bit with some artists. I played with Kevin DuBrow from Quiet Riot, started a band called Hookers and Blow with Dizzy Reed from Guns N' Roses and Alex Grassi, who's now with Quiet Riot. Played with a band called Beautiful Creature. So I did some stuff of note, but I had the bug to go back to singing, which I had done previously. And so then I started a band again, and we almost had a record deal, blah, 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 but it didn't happen. And I came up, I was about 38. I was at the time singing for a band that was playing in Vegas. I was playing one show a week and paying all my bills. So that, again, was great, but it wasn't what I wanted to be doing. And so it kind of messed with my mind, because I said, okay, I'm making money. I don't have to work a day job. I'm playing music. I'm having fun, but it's not fulfilling. And I look back, and that was kind of the scenario for a good part of my life, where I hadn't gotten real with myself. I just figured it would happen. It would just happen just because I wanted it, and I was working hard, right? And I was talented. And so I figured, I got all the pieces. But it didn't work. And so I talk to a lot of guys, and they say, I wanted to do coaching with you because I asked people that were more successful than me for advice, and they said, just keep doing it. Just get out there and play and do a good job and work hard, and things will happen. Well, that's what I was doing, but it was not happening. Mm-hmm. So I had to get clinical on it and figure out what was I doing wrong, and I wasn't doing much right. You know what I mean? I had a high standard for my performance, so that was good, but the rest of the stuff was not. So I made up my mind what I wanted to do, and wrote out what I wanted my life to look like, and wrote out what quality of life I wanted to have, and then reverse engineered it. My wife and I did this together and said, okay, we want to have all these things in our lives. How much does this cost? And we were kind of astonished to find the number that we would have to be making every year to live like this. But I said, well, that's what I want. That's what I want. But we got real. We didn't just, it wasn't, what I teach is a combination of dreaming and thinking big, and then also doing the realistic work, right? So you got your head in your clouds, but you got your feet on the ground. And so we got real about that number and started asking, what does that look like, and how do we make this a physical reality? So what I started doing was I quit the Vegas gig, which I would not recommend. If you have a situation where you are not feeling fulfilled, you want something else, but if that situation is paying all your bills, unless you are being abused in some way, do not quit. But I wanted to take action. And so I thought, okay, well, first action I'll do is get all this stuff out of my life that I don't want. Well, I did want to pay my bills, though. But I let this go. And then I'm like, oh, my God. A freak out, right? So that's a lot of times what we do. We think we're going to take an action towards a dream, but actually we're cutting something out, which at times can be helpful, but we need to recognize what's working, just for the time being. And so I did that, which threw me into a panic. And then I was just out every single night. I live in Los Angeles, so I had lots of opportunities to connect with all of the people that were further along than I was. And I would reach out to them, connect with them in any way I could. And some of these relationships have taken 2 years to get a lunch, to get a coffee, to sit down and talk to somebody. Others have, happened a little more quickly. A lot of these people have become friends, genuine friends. The rest of them are acquaintances, and hey, man, how are you? Good. How's it going? Oh, great. Good to see you, brother. Oh, you too, man. Okay. Like that kind of thing. A couple people didn't get back to me but eventually everybody did. Or I would reach out to somebody for like a year, and then I'd see them and they'd go, oh man, you've been emailing me, bro. I'm so sorry I didn't get back to you. But what we do in our heads is, oh, this guy hates me, even though they don't know you. This guy
Yes.
doesn't want to be bothered. I'm annoying him. I'm inconveniencing him with my existence, all that stuff. And so those are the things that I realized I had to walk through, was my own mindset, my own discomfort. And I found myself in a lot of situations where I was not comfortable, and it was a good thing. Where in the past, if something was uncomfortable, I'd try and get away from it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I found myself standing in a circle with Chad Smith, drummer for the Chili Peppers, Stephen Perkins, drummer for Jane's Addiction, Kenny Aronoff, drummer for kind of everybody, and one other guy, I think it was Matt Starr. But I was standing there, and this was pretty kind of early on, and I'm in this circle, and I'm in the circle with these guys. I don't know what to do with my hands. Where do I put my hands? Okay, Kenny's talking, so he's moving his hands. Chad's arms are crossed. Okay, that's one option. Perkins are like in his pocket. But the point being, I just am like standing there going, what? How did I get here? And I'm uncomfortable right now. And I realized I always want to be the least successful, least talented, least knowledgeable guy in the room, because that's how I'm going to learn. And for a long time up to that, I was always the most successful, most knowledgeable, most, motivated guy in the room. And I was comfortable with that, but it wasn't serving me. So within about a year, I got the gig with Ace Frehley, which was my first drumming gig in a very, very long time. And then that turned into a lot of other things, playing with Mr. Big, playing with Joel and Turner from Rainbow, touring the world, making records, and doing what I love, and really being fulfilled. And so what happened is I had a lot of guys that I had reached out to initially who had been on this for a while, and they started reaching out to me saying, what are you doing? Because you came out of nowhere, and now you've got these gigs and you're doing all this stuff. And I realized that I had figured it out, because I had to be methodical about it, and I had to be very conscious of what I was doing, and I was paying attention to what was working, what wasn't working, and doing all the work. So I really fast tracked the whole thing, and it worked. And then that's how my coaching business came to be, because I would have drum lessons with people, and they'd be asking me about career almost more than they were asking about drumming. But they were asking stuff like, how did you get this gig? And I'm like, I could tell you the story, and that might be of interest to you. You might go, oh, that's cool, or that's inspiring. But if you really want to know, how do you get gigs like this, I can tell you. I can give you the overview. I can give you a template. I can give you a plan, and that's what the coaching is. So, so it all kind of came out of that. But even with the coaching, a lot of this is putting my ego aside and just doing what I'm here to do. And I realized that I'm able to do this coaching work, but it didn't feel cool. I don't think of John Bonham doing coaching work. You think of him playing drums and drinking and, tearing up the world. So for me, I had to recognize, look, I have a gift, I have an ability, I have some insight, and I need to be able to share this with people. I can't be doing what I think is cool or how I want things to look from the outside. I have to do the work that I'm able to do. And so that's opened up a whole other aspect, which has led to public speaking and all kinds of other things that I would have never have seen for myself. But when I stopped trying to be cool and just be myself, that's when things really opened up.
There's so much there that I can relate to and comment on. I guess just one thing that I'll say is, up until I was 25, I just believed that life was whatever happened to you. I had a victim mentality, and I had these assumptions that life is just the way it was. And then I discovered personal development blogger Steve Pavlina, and he pointed out the idea that you can make conscious decisions for your life. And that was the first sort of gateway into a whole new way of thinking and doing life.
Yeah, it's a mind blower. And I think what I say in my work is, your life is not your fault, but it is your responsibility. And so whatever life any of us is living is a culmination of decisions and beliefs and actions that we've made over the last, in most cases, several decades. But certainly, we're responsible for it. So a lot of people, when they hear that they use that to beat themselves up. And if
That's right.
that's the angle they're coming from, that's a really self-defeating thing. But when I realized that, I thought, oh wait, so I made a mess out of this. Oh wait, I could make it better, right? Like, but I have to be
Totally.
willing to take responsibility for my life in the first place. And if people aren't willing to take responsibility for their lives, then they're not going to be able to move forward. But once you realize that this situation is my responsibility, I created this for better or worse, that means I can create something new.
That's a great little mindset tweak for sure. I love that. And you already mentioned some of these, but you've played with the likes now with Ace Frehley, Mr. Big, Dee Snider, Whitesnake, Bon Jovi, and many others. And we're talking about some of my heroes here. So how did you get to that point, and what is it like hobnobbing with so many rock stars?
The way I got to that point, I think the first thing was to really claim that that's what I wanted to do. So I'm talking to a coaching client, and they're like, I just want better gigs. I go, okay, so if I pay you $10 an hour more, that's enough. That's what you want. It's like, oh, I mean, I wanted it. And it's like, okay, but what do you really, okay, if I could do anything? Yeah, anything. Okay, I want to play with Queen. Okay, great. Let's say that out loud. Say it again. I want to play with Queen. Okay, how's that feel? Probably kind of weird. Probably like you think I'm going to say, are you serious? Give me a break. I'm like, I don't know if you're going to play with Queen, but I know that until you acknowledge the truth that's in your heart, nothing is going to come to fruition. So the first thing was just really getting clear on what I wanted to do and what things mattered to me. You know what I mean? What aspects of it mattered to me, and getting around these guys that were far more successful than me, and noticing how they conducted themselves, how they talked about business, how they thought about business, how they dressed, how they acted when they played. How did they play? How did they approach? I'd see them at concerts where they had a rehearsal, and I'd see them at open jams where they didn't have a rehearsal. And how did they do that? How do they make it happen? And everybody does things a little bit differently, but what's this consistent thing is the quality and the end result, right? So some guys have a struggled, frustrated process, and I go, okay, I don't want that, but look at the end result. I do want the end result. So is there anything I can take from this person? And then other guys have a joyful, oh man, I'm grateful for every single note I get to play. It's like, okay, I like that approach more, but there's something that I can learn from everybody. And so just going through the steps that I go through every day and that I talk about my coaching work, that's how I make that transformation. But it starts with my mind. And usually musicians that they need to get better. And what my goal is in 2019 is to close the gap between their abilities and their success, because we all have few guys. Every once in a while you see somebody go, man, that guy's got some great gigs, and he's not that great. Like he's right where he needs to be. You know what I mean? For the most part, there's so many players out there that are really good, but yet the level of success that they have is far below their abilities. But they think they need to get better. And what I'm saying, you need to get better. You probably need to play less is probably, and stop trying to impress people and just listen to the music and just play for the song to get specific. But this goes for any line of work, and getting along with people is the number one skill that's needed in this business in general, in life, in any career, because it is about the relationships and how people feel when they're around you. Again, assuming you can deliver, but the majority of people that I talk to are capable of delivering the goods. So then why aren't you getting the opportunities to do that?
It makes so much sense, and I've been on some Twitter chats and some other things like that, and people call me out and go, you're talking so much about networking. I don't like networking. I'm not going to do that. I feel shy. I feel intimidated. I feel awkward. So, but I agree with you. And maybe networking is the wrong way of framing it. Maybe just saying like making friends or finding people with common interests or getting in touch with the right people that can help you in your career, But what would you say to somebody that has that kind of mental block around it?
I would say tough shit. I would just get over it.
Yeah.
Bluntly, get over it. But I will, follow that up with this. It felt really weird to me to go out for the purpose of connecting with other people in order that I can get a better job. That felt weird. That felt creepy, felt insincere, felt like I'm a door-to-door salesman. So yeah, if you want to call it making friends, yeah, call it that. All I would say is, so, this fictitious person that you're talking about, it's like, oh, okay, so you are not comfortable with it. Okay, so keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
The discomfort is the precipice of greatness, right? So the change, the other side of that thing that you're scared to walk through, whatever it is, whether it's going up to somebody cold and just going, hey, how you doing, man? I'm Matt. It's nice to meet you. I saw you play earlier. You sounded great. Are you playing with anybody? What's going on? Are you live around here? What do you do? Strike up a conversation. Or maybe it's saying, well, when someone says, I want to hire you to record drums on a song, how much do you charge? Rather than saying, well, I don't know, what do you want to pay me? I say, I make this much. I quote a rate. And then I don't say anything else after that. I don't say, well, you get this much. But, if you can't do that, let me know. And I mean, I'm totally willing to work with you. It's like, no. This is what I get. Now you can talk. Right? So it's whatever is that thing that I'm afraid to do. So if I had a to-do list and there's a thing at the top that's just like, oh, that's the last thing I want to do, that's the first thing I do. Now, for some people, because as long as your list doesn't say, number 1, cut off your arm with a rusty saw. You know what I mean? It's like, as long as your list is, you know what I mean? Make this call to this guy who said to call him back. He said, I'm busy now. Call me in 2 weeks. And it's like, you put it in your calendar and it's like, bing, 2 weeks. Call this dude. He said to call you. Call him. So what's helpful for me in those areas too is to make to-do lists. So I get in phases where I'm relaxed, usually at the end of my day, and I'll get a bunch of just intuition as far as like, do this tomorrow, do this, call this person, reach out to this person, set this up, look into this, and I'll make the list. Then the next day I get up, I do my thing, I get my coffee, I sit down and I look at the list, thing number 1, call this guy. Okay, call him. And I'll put in the thing, call so-and-so about this thing, ask him, even though if I saw the name, I'd know what it pertained to. I just write it out exactly what I need to do so I can just read it and go, okay, I'm going to do that. Call Brian at School of Rock in Calgary, confirm February 25 for workshop. Okay, now all I need to do is put Brian, School of Rock. I know what that is, but I write it all out. Brian, it's Matt. How's it going? Cool. Just calling to confirm. Okay, we're good. Okay, great. Thanks. Click. Next thing, do that. But whatever the most, kind of frightening thing is, I start with that because then it's all cake from there,
Yeah.
But it's really about walking through the discomfort. Learn to recognize the discomfort as something good. And I'll just give you a brief story. I told you one of my first records was Cheap Trick live at Budokan. I just knew I had to play Budokan. That's one of the places I always wanted to play. So the first Mr. Big tour, I got all the dates. I'm looking through the dates. I'm like, oh, this place, that place. Oh, Japan, cool. Yeah, Tokyo, this, there. Okay, awesome. I go, wait, Tokyo. Let me go back. Tokyo. We're at Budokan. Whoa, I'm going to play Budokan. Awesome. So the night of the show, they tell me during the day, oh, by the way, we're shooting a DVD, so there's going to be like 20 cameras on stage. I'm like, okay, great. So I'm laying in bed, gorgeous hotel room in Tokyo, looking out my window on the harbor, thinking, wow, this is a really good day, but I can't sleep. And I'm trying to make myself sleep, and I got to get sleep. Man, what if I wake up tomorrow and I get enough sleep and my brain's not going to be functioning? I said, dude, this is normal. You're going to play Budokan. You're going to realize a lifelong dream that you've had for like 40 years. It's okay. So to recognize that this is normal. Because again, usually when we feel uncomfortable, we think it means something bad is about to happen. But if I said, oh, hey, by the way, Paul McCartney's in your neighborhood. He's going to come over your house in about 2 minutes. You'd get uncomfortable. You'd be excited, but you'd be like, oh my God, what am I wearing? Do I need to shave? Should I make some food? Like, you'd be uncomfortable.
Totally.
It doesn't mean it's a bad thing. It's just that you're about to meet a Beatle. So to just understand that discomfort is totally normal, and to stay focused on what the goal is and not what the feeling is as I walk into that. And so regarding networking or making new friends or whatever anyone would want to call it, if someone who's more successful than you is telling you this is what you should, to tell you what to do and they're giving you this advice and you're saying no, that gets into humility, and that's a whole other big piece of this. But just say yes. Just say yes and learn how to walk through that.
Awesome. You know, one of the big things I realized about discomfort in 2018 is that oftentimes we have our actions wrapped up in how we feel about it. But I realized that an action is an action regardless of the intent. I can pick up a cup and set it down with no emotion. I can pick it up and set it down with anger. I can pick it up and set it down kind of sheepishly or carefully. And in the end, the action makes no difference. I still picked up the cup and set it back down. And so we actually get lost in our head when it comes to taking those types of actions, thinking that everything we've built up in our head is real and true when it's not. It's like completely imagined. And the only thing that lives out here in the real world is you taking the action.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, I tell people, look, we're making all this stuff. So let's just make up some good stuff.
That's right.
You know what I mean? Like, these guys don't want to hear from me. They're going to hate me. They're going to fire me. They're never going to let me in, blah, 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 blah. All right, let's make up some good stuff. They're going to love me. And it's not an arrogant thing. It's recognizing I have something to give. And so how can I get an opportunity to be put into situations where they really need me, right? So I have a certain skill set, and there's a band right now that I would love to play with who's saying, man, we got these dates coming up and our guy can't do it. And they're not excited about that. They're like, no one wants to audition. No one wants to. I wish we knew a guy who was, you know, had this kind of feel and a certain look. And if he sang, that would be great. And, you know, a guy who's in the Zeppelin. And man, I wish we knew a guy. That's me. They're describing me. So, and there's a gig that for everybody. And so it's a matter of the universe connecting us with that opportunity. And so that's just a little mindset tweak to look at it that way, because if I come to you saying, hey, do you have any work for me, that may not go to saying, hey, I'm open in March. If you need a drummer for sessions or for live, please let me know. I'd be happy to help out. That has a different feel to it, right? So like, what's going on for you? How can I help you?
Love that. That's great. And I think another common objection, you know, when musicians hear the words music and business in the same sentence, many turn and start running the other way. But I think both you and I agree that you're probably not going to reach your full potential as a musician if you don't understand the business side. So talk about the importance of business as it applies to being a musician.
Yeah, I think I realized, you know, at one point I realized all my heroes are really, really wealthy. And they're not my heroes because they're wealthy. I just, you know, Mick Jagger, David Bowie, Pete Townsend, Jimmy Page, these legendary guys that have just created this incredible body of work. They're all really successful. And I think there was a time when I looked at guys like Brian Jones or Johnny Thunders or Sid Vicious and thought, oh, those are the real rock and rollers. No, those are the dead ones. You know, those are the guys that couldn't hang, you know. Brian Jones, like one of the coolest cats ever, but he couldn't keep up. You know, he couldn't keep up. And so I say, you know, be careful who you pick for your heroes, because I was always liking the guy who should have made it, the band that could have been, you know, the Modern Lovers or, the New York Dolls or all these, you know, the MC5 even, who get more notoriety. But I was a champion of all these bands that should have been bigger. Well, the ones that are big are pretty good too, though. You know, like the Stones are pretty great. Beatles are pretty awesome. Zeppelin, Queen, you know, they're all pretty good. So it's really about who am I drawn to and why, you know, and what does that say about me? And not to get like too analytical about it, but my heroes did change. And it is the music business. So, you know, I remember Joe Perry saying, he goes, if I just wanted to be a musician, I'd be playing at some coffee house in Cambridge, which is in Massachusetts outside of Boston. And it's like, exactly. Yeah, this is a music business. And if you don't care about the business side of things, that's okay. Then just play music, but don't expect to have a career, because a career implies that you're working. So even, you know, a hippie idealist like the Grateful Dead or Neil Young, I mean, these guys they don't play for free. You know, they get paid. And I think the other part of it is that, like, if you're getting paid, or if you're talking about money, or if you're even thinking about money, then you're not really in it for the music. And all that actually means is you're not getting paid and you're broke. That's what that means. So that, integrity and money are linked. And if you're into money, then you're not into music. And it's like, that's just, I don't know. I think the people that propagate that are the ones that do not want to pay you for your music.
That's right. Yeah.
That would be in their interest to promote that.
It's so true.
And there is a thing. I mean, look, when a band is starting out and they're hungry, there's an energy and there's a truth in that. And then, the trick is, like, how do you become a millionaire and still music that's has that edge? I mean, it's not always easy to do. Some bands, after they make it, they don't know what to do, because they've made it. So when you look at a band like U2, I think U2 is kind of the most, like, current example, but U2 or the Stones, or these bands that are had a run. I mean, because the Stones, like 63 or whatever it was, to 86, 87, where they were like putting out some relevant music. That's a hell of a run, and not letting the lifestyle and the money get in the way. There's also been plenty of artists who, their how they grew up was downplayed. So there's plenty of rich kids that grew up to rock stars, but we don't hear about that in their bio, because it makes them seem, non-legit. We like our rock stars to have, ripped jeans and, be drinking Pabst Blue Ribbon or whatever. So, it's just, it's a bit of a fantasy thing, but ultimately, if you want to have a career doing this, you have to get comfortable with the money side, and the really what it's about is self-worth. That if you're asking me to devote my time to something, what is my time worth? What is my talent worth? Mm-hmm. And what is the value that I place on it? And that's a much deeper question,
That's perfect. I think you described it very well. Like, I used to have a lot of mindset blocks around money, and even this past year, like, there was a few situations where I knew I had to say no, and it was very tough saying no. I think I've come to the point now where I'm a little more ready to just kind of turn down those things that I know aren't going to serve me, especially in situations where they're not going to honor me, and therefore, if they help me, I can help them. But if they're not going to help me, then how am I supposed to help them? I have bills to pay like anybody else, so that's just not going to happen. There was one, I think, music competition that the people wanted me to judge, and I thought, well, that's something I might be interested in doing, but does it pay? And they said no. So I said, no, I'm not doing that.
Yeah. And I think as you get further down the road, I mean, for me in the beginning, I really, because I could so easily work for free or get taken into it, it's really important to really be mindful of stuff. But then whether or not you're getting paid. And then as it go down the line, I might look at a situation and go, well, does this have a value or something in it for me that is a value, but maybe not monetarily?
Right.
You might go and play an all-star jam where everybody's playing for free, but you're gonna meet some new people. You connect with some new people. And a great aid in this was having kids, because you want me to come out and do your event or hang out at your thing. Okay, I can give my 5-year-old son and my 3-year-old daughter a bath and put them to bed and read them a book, or I can come hang out with you. So what are we doing with you? Oh, it's like this and that. Yeah, nah. I know that the universe wants me to be here. You know what I mean? And so that would help, because if it was just me and my time, then I might end up, saying yes to things that maybe weren't in my best interest. So having kids was definitely a helpful thing in that area, because it brought clarity to a lot of different things. And I had a conversation with somebody early on where they called me and they wanted to have me play for something, and they were really complimentary and everything, but then they said, we don't have any money. I said, okay, well, they wanted to say, let's get together and jam. And I don't know what that means. So I said, well, look, if you want to do a rehearsal or something for something, I can do that. But, this is my register. And they said, well, don't you ever just play for fun? And it kind of threw me for a second, because I was like, huh. And then I realized, yeah, I do play for fun. Like when I'm playing Shock Me with Ace Frehley and there's smoke billowing out of his Les Paul, that's fun. That's a lot of fun, and I'm getting paid. That person was asking me if I play for fun. They're asking me if I play for free, but they kind of put fun instead of the word free. And the reality is, when I work, I've been blessed to have gigs with people who I love playing with. So yeah, it is a lot of fun. But that guy was asking me do I play for fun. He was asking me, do I play for free? He just kind of got the words mixed up. So that did throw me for a second. I'm like, geez, am I just in this for the money? Has it come to that? And it's like, no, dude, you're singing Love Gun and Ace Frehley's playing guitar in front of, a few thousand people. That's pretty fun. It's cool. It's cool. So, but again, people will try and, take advantage or, just get things for free, and that's fine. But then those aren't my people. You know what I mean? Those aren't my clients.
And that's a good point. Definitely to look at everything holistically, considering whether it is the right kind of gig or the right kind of opportunity. Something I would love for you to talk about is the importance of coaching. Should people have a coach in their lives? What benefit does a coach offer?
Well, I think if you are getting the results you want, then you're probably doing okay.
Right.
But I look back on my life and everything that I did well and was successful at had a coach. So starting with learning how to tie my shoes, right? I don't know how to tie my shoes. My mom knows how to tie her shoes. My dad, they're experts. They've been tying their shoes for decades, right? They're at the top of their game in shoe tying. So they showed me. They coached me. Oh, no, do this, and then you make the knot, and then you hold your finger here, and you make the loop. And they walked me through it. Until I got it on my own. And they, okay, cool. They up and running. Good job, right? But what if I had how long would I have waited to not tie my shoes? I'm walking around my town and age 14 and my shoes are untied. Everyone else has tied shoes, right? So like that, or learning how to drive a car, or learning how to brush my teeth. All those things, you don't just do it. You have somebody show you, and you have somebody show you who's good at it, and then you learn, and then you're able to do it yourself. So certain things come naturally to people, and other things don't. And so I think if something comes naturally to you, but if it doesn't, be comfortable acknowledging that as well. And there's nothing wrong with getting help. I mean, we have, coaches for working out, coaches for nutrition. You have a doctor who's your overall health coach. You have all these different areas of our lives where we have coaches. But again, I think with musicians and business, it just can feel uncomfortable. And it's like, you know what, man? Just think about what you want, and are you achieving what you want? And if you're not, how can you get there? What's the quickest route to getting there? Coaching is not for people who need it. It's for people who want it.
That's awesome.
And I've talked to guys, and I'm talking to them, and they're asking me questions, and I'm like, they're asking questions, but they're not asking the right questions. They're looking at it from a skewed angle, and they're trying to and I see what's going on. I said, listen, man, I understand what you're talking about, and if you want to get together and do some coaching, yeah, maybe I'll do that, yeah, but they don't. I had a guy who was he is a guitar tech. He techs for every artist I'd name. You'd go, oh yeah, I know who that is. So big guitar legend type. But he wants to establish himself as a guitar player. So he thought, I need to stop doing this guitar tech work because they're seeing me as a guitar tech and not as a guitarist. Then the next breath, he told me that, well, the one gig I am doing, that guy asked me to learn all these songs because the other guitarist wasn't going to be able to do a tour. Like, so you're going to get a gig. He said, well, yeah, but the guy it worked out that he could do it. I'm like, so they are seeing you as a guitar player. Yeah, but I don't want, I just want to be a guitarist. And I'm going, but this is working. But he didn't want to be seen as a guitar tech. And I said, the person that's seeing you as a guitar tech is you.
Right.
You're the one that's seeing yourself as a guitar tech. They're seeing you as a guitarist who happens to be their guitar tech, and that's how you know them. So you have this entryway to get around these world-class guitar players, and they get to know you, they get to trust you, they get to hang with you, you're on the road with them, and a slot opens up, man, you're first in line. But he wasn't seeing it that way, even though, again, he had that opportunity that came up. But it was his own. So there's all kinds of scenarios like that where we're just doing things in our own best interest. And so, again, but it's for people that want it. And I think, once you hear something that is the truth, in whatever area, you know it. You can't unknow it. Like when someone lays something on, you go, oh man, and you try and forget it, and you're like, God damn, that kind of blew my mind. All right, I'm gonna have to just accept the fact that I can't forget what I just heard. So, I think if someone knows it, they know it.
That's awesome. That's a great explanation of the importance of coaching. Now, I've been poking around your website a bit. So tell me about the workbook. I'm interested in the concept. I read a little bit about it on your website and curious to know what shape it's going to take.
So the workbook is something that I'm really, really excited about. I started working on it. I've been kind of living with the concept for the last year or so. And I played on the KISS cruise with Ace Frehley in November of last year, and so you're out at sea, there's no internet, so I was like, perfect. So spent a bunch of days just writing it, and been working out through the holidays. And so what it is, it's an 8-week self-study course, and it takes you through the exact process that I went through over the first year of my career, when I actually kind of really kicked into gear about 10 years ago. And so if you're like me, I need to be told exactly what to do, because otherwise I will just fill my head up with other things and get sidetracked. So every single day you get an assignment. The time commitment is anywhere from 30 minutes to 1 hour. And it tells you exactly what to do, and it walks you through all of the different processes that I went through and helps you to learn and understand the different tools that I utilize. And these are all the same steps that I go through in my daily work. And as I'm going through it and I'm proofreading it, and I'm just like, man, I'm really excited about it. I'm really very proud of it. And the guarantee is this, if you do the workbook, you will not see things the same. You will not have the same life. You will not have the same perspective. You will have changed. And if you don't feel that that's happened, we'll give you money back. But if someone does this every day, there's no way that's not going to happen. There's no way. So the feedback's been amazing. I have a few of my coaching clients that I've given it to and had them work with it, and they're a couple months into it and just having a lot of success. And it walks you through, we address mindset, we address intuition, we address marketing, we address networking, we address just understanding the importance of why we need to do what we're here to do, why that's so important, and why that's really, I feel, a responsibility. We all have a responsibility to do what we're here to do and to figure out what that is. So I have a guy who's going from being a structural engineer to now going into the tech world. So he's making that transition. And so, he's been doing the workbook, and that's been very helpful for him. I have lots of clients that are musicians, and that works for them. But it's really anyone who is self-employed, and there's so many of us in all kinds of different careers.
Super cool. Yeah, I'm going to keep an eye on its launch. It's not officially available yet, is it?
No, we have pre-order. We'll probably have that for another couple of weeks, and then it's going to be officially launched probably about the middle of February.
Excellent. Great. And on this subject of books, I'm wondering if there's any that have helped you on your journey, and if so, what were they?
Yeah. There's been a lot. I Think and Grow Rich is probably the biggest one. I read that at least once a year.
Yeah.
That was written by Napoleon Hill. It's probably about 80 years old now.
At least.
Yeah, and that's a mind blower. Working with the Law by Raymond Hollywell. That's great, and he goes through universal laws and explains, and it's so beautifully written. And actually, the audiobook version of that, and it when it goes by, like I'll listen to like a minute, I'm like, whoa, I gotta pause. There was just so many sentences that were just so chock full of information. My brain's just gonna explode, so I have to like rewind a lot. But that's a really great book. And there's another book called Overcoming Under-Earning, and it's funny. I was just sitting in a coffee shop, and these two women were talking, and I don't know what kind of work they do, but they were talking about setting their rates and quoting stuff with clients and being uncomfortable raising their rates and all these things. And then one of them said, "You got to get this book, Overcoming Under-Earning. It's really awesome." And so that was written by an author named Gerald Mundis, and yeah, those are kind of the ones. But I just heard about one, Never Eat Alone.
Yes.
Yeah, is it Eat or Dine?
I think it's Eat.
Yeah, one of my coaching clients recommended that, and so that one sounds like it's a classic, but I for some reason never heard of it before.
Yeah, I think it might be a slightly newer book compared to some of the others he referenced, but I've definitely heard about it. Yeah. Think and Grow Rich.
And how about for you?
Oh, for me, wow. I think I recently picked out my top 6 books. Number 1 was Content Inc. by Joe Pulizzi. The one that one's important to me because I'm building an online business, and he describes in great detail how to go about that process of what type of content to create to attract your audience and how that can ultimately translate into a profitable action. Another one is Double Double by Cameron Herold. Even just his like little thoughts in the back that he's talking about, little reflections he's had that he's jotted down or journaled about. That one is totally worth the money, even just for those little insights at the back. There's Work Less, Make More by James Schramko. He was my coach for a while, and I'd certainly like to learn more from him in terms of online business. But he has got a great book that talks about how to gain more freedom through your business and not, be constantly obsessed with the hustle, but actually be able to live a life as well. And then 4-Hour Workweek, everybody knows that one.
Right.
Very inspiring. Getting Things Done by David Allen is a good productivity book. And Book Yourself Solid by Michael Port. So those are some of my favorites.
Awesome. You're doing more reading than I am, which is excellent.
I'm doing a ton of reading, yeah.
It's inspiring. Do you have kids or no?
I do not. So that probably plays a bit of a part, yeah.
A little bit. It's funny. Every time I read up on somebody who is who's inspiring to me, they talk about how much they read, and especially older people. Older people that have been around. They say you just read a ton, and you got to get that new information, even if it's just a like I have. Money magazines and drum magazines and stuff too, but just around the house, you got a minute, you sit down, read, even if you read one article or one page, just to get some new thoughts into our heads, just to get the ideas turning and looking at things in a potentially different way. It's a really good activity.
Oh yeah, I think so too. For a while there, I was reading 52 books a year, so one book for every week.
Awesome.
Last couple of years haven't kept that pace, but I'm back into a regular reading routine, so I'm excited for that.
Excellent. And do you read in the beginning of the day or end of the day, or when's your time?
Yeah, beginning and end are generally good times. Sometimes in between, because I'm self-employed and I might have a moment where I can just go and read instead of maybe staring at my computer for another hour.
Nice.
Well, I'm sure we could talk for hours, but I want to thank you for your time and your generosity. And is there anything else I should have asked?
I think we pretty much covered it all. I mean, like you said, these topics are so fascinating and inspiring to me. It's great to, have my career be surrounded by something immersed in something that I'm so passionate about, and help so many people. It's really such a cool thing. Playing music is such an inspiring thing for so many people, and then to do the coaching work, that just is really directly impacting people's lives. So it's always fun to talk about it. But yeah, no, I think that's kind of the gist of everything. And if anyone wants to get in touch with me, they can email me just directly at mattstarrcoaching@gmail.com. And both Matt has 2 T's and Star has 2 R's. So mattstarrcoaching@gmail.com. Or they could go to my site, which is mattstarrcoaching.com. And I'm just happy to help any way I can. So just feel free to reach out.
Perfect. Thanks so much for joining me, Matt.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you for listening. Music in this episode was brought to you by Brian Young. Wherever you're listening to this right now, please consider leaving a 5-star review and comment to help us get the word out about the podcast.